Way to go.
Okay. Basically, what we have now is we were discussing all of these file structures. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do A to Z ascending per table, because it makes sense to you if I do it this way. In the lower left-hand column, there's a thing called calculation, intra, and interstate. And basically, I created a calculation. I'm going to edit it just so you can see what it is. I created an if-then statement. So if the state of origin from the base is equal to the state of origin from the base, and again, that's the Tableau, the way it handled that. It's going to be intra versus inter. So if the state of origin equals the state of destination, it's an inter movement, intrastate movement, or it's an interstate movement. And again, I did this so that I can duplicate and handling intra-regional flows. So what I can do is I can just simply cut and paste and copy this. I said OK, and I'm going to create a new table, create a calculated field. I'm just going to paste it. Now, as opposed to state of origin base, I would just simply drag the FAF.
Hold on. How you do new field?
Okay, let me actually be easier to do this other on the table itself. But I'm going to come here. I do the calculation. I do an edit to see what it is, and it's an if, kind of an if-then sentence. If the state of origin equals the state destination, then I use intra, or I use inter, and I can simply modify, add another column and modify it, and add FAF zone versus FAF zone, which I will do when I repost the data set later this week. So I made a note to add that. But this is just to show you how, again, a lot of the value of Tableau is using these very simple SQL queries to build all these functions. For instance, if you look under this column here, that gives you a whole bunch of different functions that you can use to build, and you can sort out by things that you can use on a number or a string or a date or conversion. And so realistically, as you get more advanced into Tableau, you'll find yourself using these functions a little bit more. Am I sorry, what? Hello? Okay. Unless somebody spoke. So I'm going to close this out. And Jackie's going to do the route to state. Same thing, just click on it, edit it. Just edit it so you can see it, and basically it's the state of origin to the state of destination. The reason I'm doing this is so I can build my pairs. Like for instance, when we did the pipeline study about how things are moving, just right click on that. You just got to click happy to say OK. Good. The calculation.
If you do the drop-down error.
So we're right here. So we're just going to do edit. So you can see I did state base to state base. So if I wanted to, I could build a one that says international flow. And I might have to do that. International flow to, from, just to make it easy for people. Because if I got confused, I know the data. So that's A, that's B. Okay. And then okay, now we're going to go to the SCTG code. And if you notice, it's going to say edit group. What I did was, remember I mentioned having these little summaries. So as opposed to having multiple commodities, I wanted to have a few limited commodities. So basically, this group hit cancel. If you go back to the SCTG above it, there's going to be an SCTG code. And basically, click on the blue Venn. And so basically what I did is I linked the SCTG code between the FAF dataset and the Excel data set. And by doing that, I was able to build, close that out, I was able to build this grouping on the file. By editing the group, I just simply drug it and created the groups. So for instance, if you click on the arrow by agriculture and foodstuffs, you see which commodities, which codes were linked to that group.
Got it.
So hit cancel. So now the BEA base, okay, now let me show you something. Tableau is extremely design efficient. Everything in Tableau tells you something. If you look, go all the way to the connections, you're going to see FAF Tableau and FAF 4 codes, all the way to the left, to the upper side. The FAF 4 Tableau has a blue border on the left-hand side. And if you notice, there's a blue border in the middle of the page when we do in the join area. And if you scrolled all the way over on the tables, you would see the blue border there as well. So Tableau will give you these visual links as to where the data set originally came from as you're doing your metadata analysis. For instance, all of the orange tags are all tied to the FAF codes data set. So as you're doing your links and your joins and you're building your data set, it does provide you a means of just double checking. Now again, as you notice, we're scrolling all the way up or down. We can always just go to sort fields, and as opposed to looking at horizontally, go back to the left, we can always click on it and look at it vertically. So now we can look at our metadata, and we can look at the various, all the way to data sources. What are you doing?
Well, I accidentally moved it, and so I was moving it back.
Oh, it doesn't make any difference. It's pretty customizable.
I liked it at the end.
Oh, okay. Every place has a place. Okay, so as you can tell, again, the same thing. We're in blue, whatever. So go back to the data view. BEA base, click on that one. So now you notice there's no editor, no nothing, because basically what I did is by joining the domestic regions, it just simply added this file to the data set. It's just, when I joined the one, this came with it as a descriptor. So just close that out. And we go to FAF domestic. Now again, just expand it, open it up a little bit more. Open up the call so they can see it. Okay, so this clunky name here was simply, again, that was the FAF code that brought it in when it did the join. So you can do joins or columns, whatever, but there's no aliases. Now we go to the ITTS region. Obviously, it's always going to be one because Missouri is an ITTS member state. State of origin, we click on that one. You notice it has a geographic area. And if you look at the BEA, it also has a geographic area, which means you can display these in the thematic maps, which we're going to do in just a little while. So FAF domestic, again, the same thing. Again, this is by building the code, it pulls it in. ITTS destination, whether it's an ITTS destination or not. State destination, and then we start getting into the numeric values, which you see the pound sign. The pound sign says that this is going to be a measure. It's a number, and you can always tell it if it's a decimal or how it wants to handle it. We have the forecast is whether it's a base forecast or not forecast. Foreign inbound. Again, the same thing. Foreign outbound, these are just codes that were looked up. Keep going to the left and to the right. And we see the SCTG codes, which we mentioned earlier. Now click on that one, and there's a little bitty button, the down arrow on that one. It's going to show you the aliases. Do the aliases. And if you notice, there's no aliases here. It's all the same. So hit cancel. Now, if I had put, for each of those, I could have put the alias. I could have actually gone through it. I know that I did the alias in one of these. I'm trying to which one it was. Maybe it was trade type. If I look at trade type, you see the aliases. It's just number one is always domestic. number 2 is imports, number 3 is exports. It's just easier for me. For these smaller data sets, I'm not going to be doing a lot of adjustment on the elements. I'll just put an alias here. For the commodities, I could have come here to the commodities. Again, I select, I do aliases, and I could have copied all of the aliases in here, but I would, if I know that I'm already joining it, I'll just join it and use this description. And that way, when I modify the Excel chart, I can add more variables to it. I can do other things with it. If I only modify it as an alias, I can't link that alias to other things. Yeah. So conceptually, you have to think through, if you're going to put another hook on a data set, how would you do that? And if you need it, how do you want to do the alias? So, again, the next description, and I have the SCTG code here. Now notice it's orange. I really don't need this code here because it's duplication, so I'm just going to go to the file, and I'm going to hide it. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to hide it. And it's gone. It's not removed from anything. It's just, why do I need to have SCTG code shown twice? It doesn't really make any sense. It's going to confuse me. So there's codes that I don't use. I can just simply, like for instance, I'm not going to use one of these codes. I can just simply just say I don't want to use it. Now you can do filters. If you go to the upper right hand corner, there's something called filter. So here I can put a filter on the data extract. I go filter, I want to make an add, and I only want to go to year at the bottom. Hit OK. And it's going to ask me what? I'm only going to want 2012 data. OK. I hit OK. Now what will happen is if you go back through all the tables you created, go back to sheet 17, and you notice there's no 2013 data anymore. So that's a global filter to the whole worksheet. So for instance, if I'm only really going to be studying, a certain element, a certain commodity, a certain something, that's a good way of doing the gross hatchet. Like I don't really care about pipeline and air. Well, I'll just go to there and filter out pipeline and air because I'm only looking at surface modes. And in that way I don't have to mess with cleaning them out later on in the report. Or if I'm only looking at international trade, then I can take out the domestic. I can just cut it the way I want to cut it. So it's just a way of, if you know there's some things you're just not going to be interested in this query, you filter there. But if you come back to do additional research, you just simply take off the filter, and then you can do your original research. So it's just a way of cutting the data set down to what you're really wanting to use.
Can you take this off?
Go ahead and remove the filter. So if you have the filter still on, remove it. So go back to edit the filter all the way up to the upper left-hand corner where it says edit. Click on edit, select the year, and then remove it. And there it is. Okay. Now if you go back and look at the files that you created earlier, sheet 17, 18, you see that now you have the 13 number in it. So basically, again, as I stressed earlier, Tableau sits on top of your native data, but that does not mean it doesn't have functionality. So you can do a lot of things on there that you may not do otherwise. So let's go back to the data source, all the way in the lower left-hand corner. There's another thing. There's two boxes in the middle. It's called show aliases, show hidden fields, and limit the number of rows. So in the exact middle on the right-hand side, there's two boxes, show aliases, show hidden fields. And this is just something, for instance, you do a show alias, like I typed in the inbound, domestic. I can click on it and say, okay, well, these are the ones that I did. I put an alias. These are the ones I don't. If there's a hidden field, it'll show up as a shaded out field. So you can see, okay, this one was not. I click it out. It's just less fields. So the idea is you manage the data set in this data source column. you get all the links, you get all the joins, you get everything prepared. Think of this is where the cook preps his meal. Well, I mean, I love to eat, so I'm very good at eating.
It's data mise en place.
And so everything after that is the entree and the appetizer and the main course and the dessert. So this is where the real getting the data into Tableau's function, getting the data organized, this is where the real work of Tableau is. Because as you saw, it was very easy to manipulate the data once it was in Tableau. I mean, once you start dragging and clicking, Carlos has never used Tableau before. I had to restrain him a few times because he's like running 1,000 miles to Sunday. But it's the work of Tableau is not, you know, what you see in the worksheets and the dashboards and the stories. This is where it really takes place. This is the real heavy lift. Now, also in the upper right-hand corner, there's something called live and extract. Again, the thing is if you're processing a data set and you want to have it always refreshing, you can use it as live or refresh when you do it, or the extract just pulls out a smaller sample and you do the filter, you do the extract, and you don't have to have the full data set. So there's some ways that you can manage how information is in. Now, I want you to go all the way to the upper left-hand corner. There is a save icon, you know, the floppy disk, and there's always a save there. You can save it as the file it is now. You can save it as a new file, or you can, you can manipulate the data. I just wanted to show you that. I want to talk about saves. Tableau version 10.3. Well, that's okay. Just open it up again. Here, let's hang on for a second, Tanya.
Yeah.
Okay, you're fine. Basically, the way Tableau does something, if you're in the middle of working and it crashes, it will remember where you're at. But if you know that you're in a data set that you're going to use a lot, you might want to save your work periodically. Now, if you know that you're going to be doing a lot of modifying, you're going to do a lot of stuff, well, you might want to save a file that says, okay, I'm going to make a special worksheet just for, commodity flows or something like that. If you know there's a certain data set that you're going to be using a lot, you can build all the data set, make a special cut, and save it. So a lot of functionality, but this is the sheet upon which, the back end part of how Tableau really gets to the data set. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Window. Actually, not Window. Let's just click on one of our sheets, one of the sheets you created earlier. Okay, which one? Now go to Window, all the way in the ribbon at the very top. Okay. Now, if you go down, you'll see all of these tables that I started creating that are attached to the FAF data set. So just click one at a time, just so you can see them. Just click on them. Now it's going to say, again, these were built off of the full FAF, so that some things may not make a lot of sense because it's a Missouri cut. But again, just to show you some of the tables that have been built.
Am I missing some worksheets?
No, you have them all. Just go to Window. They're all there.
Okay. Oh, they're happening. And then
just click on them. Just see what's there. Now, one of the things, too, is you notice I have some things called dashboards.
Yeah, that's all.
What a dashboard is let's just go ahead and create a dashboard. Go to the very top ribbon, and it's going to say dashboard. You're going to create a new dashboard. And basically, you drag pages over into the dashboard, so you can now drag another one. And now you can start overlaying these to have multiple worksheets on the same image. So the way you think of it is, the worksheet is a single sheet of paper. It's where you're doing your work. A dashboard is where you take two or more of these and overlay them with each other so that you actually can look at multiple dimensions at the same time. So the value of Tableau is you can think through different structures, and you can add, say, okay, I want to look at total trade by this commodity, and I could put these other filters in it, and I can start looking at it. Now, the dashboard could be dynamic, where you can build links in it, where if I click on one element, it'll show up in the dashboard and highlight it. I have some of that in the Canvas data set. So, again, now let's go to story. What story is just do a new story, is you say, okay, I'm going to take one of the tables or the dashboards, it doesn't make any difference, and I just drag it in there. And then what I do is I add a caption. There's going to be a gray box in the middle of the sheet. Just double click on it and type wherever you want to type. Okay? And just hit enter. And you say, great. Now what the purpose of the story is to provide a framework. So if I'm going to give this to somebody, I can create a story. Here's page 1, here's page 2, page 3. Or if I go up to the presentation mode, go to the ribbon. There's a no, not there. No, up. There's a ribbon. See this for a second?
Yeah.
If I go to window, there's a presentation mode. So I can actually create a story or a dashboard or a worksheet, hook this up to a computer, and just show it to everybody. And if they say, hey, let's make a change or adjustment, no big deal. You just make the change and adjustment and they can look at it. Like for this one, so again, the story is where you take the dashboard or you take the worksheet and you write up why this is important, why they should care, and you assume this is something you're going to explain to somebody. So I'm going to give everybody another minute or two to keep just dragging and playing with things on dashboards or stories. So what you can do is, like, you take the story, you have the dashboard 1, just drag another worksheet to the back of the Tableau Training. So if you just, like, Jackie's going to take commodity ton mile, she's going to drag it to the right-hand side of the box. 2 blue arrows will show up and you drop it there. Now you have a second sheet in your story. So you can click on the first sheet, you click on the second sheet, and now you've contained a script. So
like a slideshow.
You're creating a slideshow.
Yeah.
And so, and again, if you do the presentation mode, you do whatever, you can use it for that. So, and then you can do the joins, and you can have joins all the way across, so that once you make an adjustment on the very first dashboard, the story will change all the way through. So the Tableau is very good about remembering links if you build it in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to where do I want to start with this? Let's go to table. Let's go to the first one of the tables. Let's just go to a new table that you built. Just go to a new worksheet, one of the ones you did. Okay, you're still in story, so it's trying to add it as a story.
So go back to.
You just got to go back to you have to go back to Windows. Yeah, you have to go when you're back in here in story.
Mm-hmm.
See here, just go to window because it's still thinking you're trying to do the story, so you have to physically go back to the sheet.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's just do a new worksheet. Go to plus. Now remember, I was talking about the importance of geography, and Tableau is very sensitive about that. So if we go and we're going to drag tons, I'm sorry, let's just grab state. Go up to, go down to one of the domestic regions. It's going to say, yeah, let's just do that.
You want to do origin?
It doesn't make a difference. State of origin, that's fine. Just drag it over. Drag it somewhere into yeah, that's right. Okay. So basically, this is state of origin. Again, we know that it's Missouri, so it's going to Missouri. So if you notice in the Show Me box, open up your Show Me box so you can see all the graphs. Remember earlier, the maps did not show up because I did not have anything to graphically show. Now, Carlos, you are not online, so your background maps are not going to show, so don't get excited.
No.
Okay. But for those people that you're online, you can click on it and you will see different maps. So what you say is, well, that's kind of neat, but it doesn't tell me anything because it's basically the whole U.S. So now what you do is you take tons and you drag tons onto the graph. Okay? Now, if you do one type of map, the map with the pie charts, you'll see basically everything is a pie chart. Now go back to the, okay. So we have a pie chart, and if you go to the middle one, you'll see a thematic map, the one that's in shading right here. Okay? So basically, well, this is good too. It's a little bit more information. You say, well, this is fine, but now I want to know some other characteristic. I can put that in. So, for instance, I come here and I then take yeah, I can do value. I said them a commodity. I was thinking about mode. Okay, here, let's just get to mode. We're going to go all the way up to domestic mode, and we're going to drag domestic mode into the color right there. Okay, and now what it's going to show me is the states where the predominant mode is, close the Show Me. It shows me what's the predominant mode to and from Missouri by different modes. I can make a pie chart now. If I bring the tons in, I can make a pie chart with it. You overwrote it. Yeah. You just take it.
Bring tons back in?
Yeah, you just have to physically bring it in.
Here?
Right there. You have to, excuse me.
Yeah. Reorder?
No, you have to make this a bar. Okay, so what I did now is I have a pie chart that shows for each of the states. There, I'm going to zoom it in. I come to this little arrow. I'm going to do zoom. And now I'm going to zoom in. And so I can say, oh, these are all the states, and this is the mode mix, and I can make the size bigger. So I can look at basically the mode share of the states. So you can do a lot of this type of mapping, in Tableau once you have the right geography. The whole thing is you have to have the right geography. Because if Tableau View does not recognize the state as a state or the FAF as a certain code, it will not show it in the data. So that's why the fact that it doesn't show county FIPS, it doesn't show state FIPS is really annoying because that's how all the federal data sets listed. So anyway.
Hey, Bruce, how'd you get the little pie charts again?
Oh, just hit the back arrow. I'm talking to Jackie. You see where she did? Go back, Jackie. Okay, so basically, go back. I just simply did pi. I took an element and put pi on it. So I went to the marks. I went to the pull down menu and I did pi. And just selected it.
You see the middle column of pages, filters, and marks?
Yeah. I see it. It's just that mine says hide card. It doesn't have an option to click pi or anything like that.
Drop down, but under marks.
Under marks, it says automatic.
Yeah.
And it should say
Okay, there you go.
Okay. So the idea is, if it just gives you some more dimensions, and if I wanted to do some other elements underneath it, I can. So again, that's some functionality, but not everything's going to make sense, Carlos, because it's just the nature of what it is. So basically, you've created a pie chart that shows. So I want tons to be the size. So what I did is, once I got my pie chart done, then I added a ton. I moved tons up to size, so now everything is sized by tons. And as you can tell, as we mentioned earlier, the biggest flow is to and from Missouri. So I say, well, that's not relevant for my discussion. I can always come back through this and put a filter on it and remove the Missouri flows. And then everything changed. So now I can look at where's the bigger flows moving to and from my state, and it's basically as expected, it's my neighbors. So there's a lot of flexibility there that you can use based on how you structure the data. And if I'd have just done the FAF codes, I would not have been able to do this analysis.
Not that quick.
Well, no, you have to put it all into something to make sense for Tableau. I mean, I hate to say it, you have to speak Tableau to Tableau, because if you don't, then Tableau just, especially when it comes to geography. Everything else, Tableau is very good at natively capturing, but geography is very particular. It has to be in exactly the right format, or it will not accept it. So anyway, that's the FAF data set. So I don't know, we got another 10 minutes on FAF. I don't know if there's any questions people have on the FAF or not, or if there's a table they'd like to build, or there's something that they would like to see.
So again, going back to my earlier question, you said that one of the ways that you cut down the FAF data to make it specific to Missouri was basically altering it in Excel by taking out the...
No, let me show you. I actually have to use 3 different CSV editors because the FAF is literally 2 gigs.
Yeah.
And so I had to take the FAF, I had to split it all into pieces, and then let me just show it to you. That's fine. Yeah. And I actually have to filter it all into pieces. So yeah, and the sheet receipt. So basically I have all of these files, and what I did is I went to a program called the limit, and I basically just simply did a filter here and cut out everything in the filters that were not for the state of Missouri.
Okay.
So basically, again, here's the master file, and if you notice, it's almost 2 gigs.
Right.
The file that you're running with now is like 5. I mean, 5 megs.
Mm-hmm.
So this one takes just a long time to run. And basically, the way that the FAF is released as a CSV file, it is released as a FAT file, which means every column, like for instance year and tons and everything, is all included as one big long table. So for Tableau, it has a lot of problems handling what I call FAT files, which is it have one column that say 2020 tons, 2025 tons, 2030 tons. So conceptually, it's very hard to do that type of manipulation, because you literally would have to add every value to do the query every time. So I had to literally take the CSV file, break it apart, massage it, and join it all back together as a skinny file, which is all the tons are in one column, all the values in one column, all the ton miles are in one column, and not literally split over 10 or 15 different columns.
Wow.
So no, it's that's why I'm saying Tableau, once you get it all compressed and you think through the data, the metadata stuff, it runs like, you know, like clockwork. But you've got to make sure the data is ready for Tableau.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so I don't know if there's any other questions on Tableau right now on the FAF 4 point on this FAF data set. But as you can tell, if I just we can create the stories, we can create the dashboards. You have some charts in there that you can use. I'm going to show you some filters now. Like for instance, all of these filters, I want to make a filter. I'm going to take this filter out. Let me do this. I'm going to the first sheet that we built, sheet 17. And I'm just going to do the show me. I'm going to make it a table just so it's easier for me to kind of start the beginning. So I have year as a column, commodity, whether it's domestic, export, or an import. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a filter on what part of Missouri it's going to and from. So I come here, I do my FAF domestic origin, I'm going to drop it as a page. So it'll show me, so now basically it's going to show up as from Alaska, or Albany, or Baltimore, or Charleston. So the idea is I can literally make this a filter and just go through each one and get what I'm looking for and not have to build the table every time. So what Pages do is Pages gives you a filter that lets you build a customized data set, and then you can just slowly go through each one that you want without having to build and do filters and everything else. So think of it as a global filter. So, and then if we do the filter, the same thing. I could say on all of these sheets, 17, 18, 19, 20, I'm going to add a filter. I come here, I'm going to click on these sheets. I'm going to add a filter. I'm just going to do commodity. And I'm just going to do agriculture. I do none. I do ag. I do apply. And then, so now I have just agriculture. And then I'm going to select these fields. And I'm going to say, I want to add a filter. And I want to apply the filter to the selected worksheets. And so I can select which sheets that filter is going to be at. So for instance, I want to limit the worksheets to just say, I want agriculture, I want inbound, outbound mode, or if I want something else, then I can do it that way. So that the filter button can let you build a lot of data sets and then let you customize the things that are related. So anyway, yeah, you will use filter a lot in the Tableau work. Is everybody up to speed with how I got to this filter?
Yes.
Okay. So basically all I did was add a filter here, and I select apply to worksheets, and I could have done it to all the worksheets, all the related data sources, whatever I wanted to make it work. Now I'm going to remove this filter, and I'm going to remove this right here. Now, I'm not interested in commodity just because it's for the sake of the table. I'm going to remove that as well. Now what I'm going to do, you see I have tons and I have values. I want values to be a text as well. And then I'm going to put in let me just create another sheet. It'd be easier to show it this way. I have a new sheet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop tons in. Actually, no, I'm going to just do I'm going to do BEA destination. So I got BEA destination, and this shows me whether it's the Far East, Great Lakes, whatever. And then I'm going to add tons to it. So now I have a basic chart. Basically tons, and if I do it this way, tons now becomes a column. That's why it shows up that way. If I do it this way, tons becomes a row, or I can just always hit delete and take it out. Now what I want to do is I want to create an analysis where I want the percentage of the table. And just simply clicking that button, I now have the percentage. So basically 75% of the freight that has that arrives in Missouri has an origin in the Plains area of the United States. And if I want to have the tons value with it, I just simply put tons next to it. I know.
It doesn't really let you add it to the...
No, it doesn't. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it as a column. And this is something that I do a lot, is I will add it as a color. And if you notice, I now have a blue, so the ones that are the bluest that will stand out. And you'll see this in a lot of the other tables, where I will have a chart, the lines will be bluer or darker colors as a way of indicating that. I could always do the same with the show me and get the same functionality here. But you will use this analysis. There's a lot of pre-analysis things. I can click here. I can get quick calculations such as running difference between two periods, total, rank. And so the Plains is the #1 trade. So once you start getting into it, you'll use the analysis button here, and you'll do an analysis button on each pill, and you'll get to the quick table calculations, and you can do some analysis on it as well. Again, those are just things that once you get into it and you start playing with it, you'll find that you want to know the percentage of a pane. And in fact, let me just show that to you real quick. See how I dropped it? This is a good distinction because I know some of y'all did this. If I take intra and interstate and I put it right in this box, all four corners are going to show, and it will replace what is in there. If I click back and I say I want to add it in the table either before or after, I will get the dash lines. So basically, the largest flow to Missouri is Missouri traffic, which we saw earlier. And so I can just change the here, and so I got it again. I get the rankings, and I have the totals. So again, once you start doing the data, it's a lot of, I hate to say it, it's a lot of just dragging and dropping, and it's a lot of just experimenting with it. And if you don't like that, see it's got the thematic layering, so I can always come back, and because I have the intra here, it shows up as an area.